Are you ready to break free from the doubts and limits holding you back? Welcome to Embrace Your Value, where therapy meets coaching to help you unlock your true worth and take control of your life.
Hi, I'm Kristen, a trauma therapist dedicated to helping you heal, break old patterns, and reclaim your power.
And I'm Jen, your support coach, here to show you how to set fierce boundaries, embrace self-compassion, and step boldly into the life you deserve.
So whether you're stuck in self-doubt or feeling lost, know this: your value isn't up for negotiation. It's time to own it.
Every week, we tackle real issues that challenge, inspire, and empower you to live with purpose and confidence.
So grab your favorite drink, take a deep breath, and let's get started.
Because you're not here to play small. It's time to embrace your value. Something happened this week that I keep coming back to. I was on a call with a woman who is sharp and accomplished and someone who had clearly done a lot of work on herself. One point, she said something almost offhand. She said, I used to have a lot of opinions. Used to? Like it was just a fact. Like somewhere along the way, she had filed opinions away and hadn't noticed they were gone. I didn't say anything in the moment because I didn't want to derail the call. But afterwards, I kept thinking, when? When did that happen? How does that happen? And how does she even know that it happened? Is anyone else listening to this right now who recognizes that sentence in themselves? That's what Kristen and I want to talk about today. Welcome to Embrace Your Value. I'm Jen Anderson, your beliefs and boundary specialist.
And I'm Kristen Burris, your trauma therapist. Today, we're not doing a more structured lesson type podcast. We just want to have a real conversation about something that came up for Jen this week and that I think touches something most of our listeners would recognize.
I want to talk about shrinking, and I want to hear what Kristen makes of it from her end, because I do have a feeling that we're going to see it a little differently.
And we might. So let's find out.
So here's the thing. The woman on that call wasn't unusual. When I really thought about what she had said to me, I realized that a lot of my women say things like that. What was really weird was she didn't really lose her opinions, but it was the fact that she had no idea that it had happened. Like it just hit her in this moment of, I don't know what I want. But it had happened so gradually over time that one day she just woke up and she was like, I have no opinions on anything. And I've had several clients like that. And I think that that's really the thing that makes shrinking or hiding. I know I did a lot of hiding, especially when I first started my coaching business, because I didn't want to be too much. I didn't want to be too visible, but I did it so gradually, like I just kept pushing myself back, that I didn't know what was making me shrink. It doesn't really arrive as a crisis. It arrives as a series of small adjustments. Sometimes you soften what you want to say. You don't bring something up again because it caused tension last time. You stop volunteering your perspective in a relationship or at work because it just never seems to land the way you mean it to. And then one day someone asks you what you think, and you don't even know how to answer it. You stand there looking like a goof because you're like, I don't know. I don't have one. I honestly don't have one. That's how I feel every time my husband asks me what I want to eat. I don't know. I don't really care. Just feed me. Right? Like that's where it comes from. But you just lose it.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting observation. I struggle with the decision fatigue part, which is like, I don't really know what I want to eat for dinner. But other opinions, man, that's something I definitely strengthened. I used to shrink. I used to not want to cause waves. I know anybody who knows me would be like, when was that? But I've learned to keep my opinions. So I think I am going to have another side of this. What I'll add to that is that gradual piece tends not to be accidental, right? It's the nervous system doing its job, keeping you safe, keeping you from getting into a situation where you feel danger, whether that's real danger or imagined danger. And so what it looks like is every time someone softens their response based on your response and the tension in the room goes down, that your brain sees as a successful strategy. And it says, this works. And it goes, I will do that again. Even if it's uncomfortable for me, it's more uncomfortable to be in tension. So I'm just going to run it again and keep playing that play. The problem is what works to reduce immediate tension can quietly cost you your sense of self over a long period of time.
Right. It's adaptive in the moment and erosive over time.
Right. And exactly. And by the time someone notices, like the woman on your call, the pattern is so ingrained, it doesn't even feel like a pattern anymore. It just feels like who they are, or maybe some way that they've created their personality, like people pleasing or just being agreeable.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's really the saddest part to me and why I care so deeply about this work. Because it isn't who they are. It's who they learn to be in order to stay comfortable in their relationships or they feel like they're keeping themselves relevant, but really what they're doing is just hiding. And I understand that because I used to do that all the time. I would hide from anything that related to me and just put out generic information. And I'm really happy that I've changed that, but I understand how easy it happens.
Yeah. And, I'm going to push back a little bit on this, if that's okay, Jen.
Of course, please.
So there's a version of, we'll go ahead and put it under the category of shrinking that isn't entirely like a loss, right? I think there's softening that happens over time that is also a certain kind of maturity. So as a younger 20s, late teens, early 20s person, I had to be right. I had been so not right or not able to be right as a child that when I was out and doing my own thing, I was like, no, I'm going to be right and make sure everybody knows I'm right. And so I would push it and I would push it, and it would cause a lot of problems in relationships in the very beginning. So I think learning that you don't have to say every true thing that comes into your mind out loud, which I think there are some people that definitely do that too much. That's discretion, and that is the skill. That's something that you use to say, okay, I'm going to decide what's important to speak up about and what can just go by the wayside. So I think I've worked with some people who thought they were shrinking. I would say this is probably in the late 30, early 40s crowd, mostly, is who they thought they were shrinking when they were actually just kind of growing up.
Totally fair. And I think the distinction I'd make is chosen discretion is different from fear-based silence. One is a value and the other is a survival strategy. And when I'm talking about shrinking, I really mean the latter. the editing that happens because you're managing someone else's reaction, not because you've decided that this particular thing isn't worth saying.
Right. And that's the clinical distinction, right? Healthy differentiation, choosing when and how to share versus chronic suppression, where the filter is running all the time and you've stopped checking to see whether it needs to be or.
And I think most of the women I work with can feel that difference when they pause, when they stop and pay attention. I talk to them a lot about pausing. That's kind of become the thing I talk about now, is we have to stop and see where we're really at, and are we choosing us? And that's just it. One feels like a choice where the other feels like a wall they didn't build on purpose.
That reminds me, I had a client a few years ago. She came in because she was experiencing what she described as kind of a blankness, not depressed, like not sad. She just felt flat or kind of deflated. And one of the things that we uncovered slowly was that she had spent so many years managing her husband's reactions, preemptively softening things, anticipating what would upset him, that she had essentially edited herself out of the relationship. So there was so much pleasing and keeping safe that she essentially had made herself almost invisible. She was there, she was present, she was functioning, but she had no idea what she actually thought about anything anymore because everything had been filtered through, will this be okay, for so long.
A really good example. So what happened with her, Kristen?
We did a lot of work on just noticing her own reactions before she processed them through the filter. So that's about just noticing what's happening in the moment instead of doing something on autopilot, right? It sounds simple, but it isn't. When you do something for so long, especially something like filtering, because it creates a sense of safety, it becomes unconscious. So the first task was just helping her slow down enough, there's that pause, to catch the unfiltered thought before it disappeared.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do with clients too. Sometimes I'll ask my women, what did you actually want to say? And then I ask this after they've given me the softened version. And I ask that because they don't ever think of that. Like, that's a tough thing, especially in the moment, to come up with for yourself. And when they pause before they answer, that just tells me everything, because they have to go figure it out. They have to think about it. They have to bring it up. Such a thing. And I've been there. I had to do it too. So if you're out there listening to this and thinking, okay, this might be me, I want to leave you with one thing. And this is just a simple question to sit with this week. When did you start editing yourself? And who were you editing yourself for? That's it. Don't try to fix it. Just see if you can name it. Was it a relationship, a season, a specific moment where you learned it was safer to be less?
And I'll add, if you can name it, try to remember who you were before it. Not to go back, but to remember that unedited version of you still exists. She's just been quiet for a while. So I want to say something directly to whomever needs to hear this today. If you've been living in a smaller version of yourself for a relationship, for family, for a room that didn't have space for all of you, that is not a permanent condition. It is a pattern, and patterns can be interrupted. It starts with noticing, and you've done that today by just listening. If this one resonated, send us a message. Tell us when you started shrinking and what you're doing about it. We want to know.
See you next week. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for being here with us today.
If today's episode hit home, don't just keep it to yourself. Subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Because everyone deserves to know their worth.
Next week, we're diving even deeper with more insights and tools to help you break free from limitations and live authentically.
Until then, keep raising your standards, owning your worth, and embracing your value.